I'd like to welcome you here tonight. We're just about to get started, and before we begin, I'd ask you to stand and join me in the pledge, and then Mike Overton will bring the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for the wonderful opportunity we have to live in this great nation, and we thank you for the opportunity to be citizens of this great country. Be with us now as we deliberate and help us make the best decisions possible for all of our citizens. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mike. All right. We do have large print agendas available over here. Bill's got them there if anyone would like to have one of those. That said, I'll call to order this meeting of the Springdale City Council. This is a regular meeting, Tuesday, July 11th, 2017. I'll ask our city clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Sprouse.
Here.
Rick Culver.
Here.
Jeff Watson.
Here.
Mike Overton.
Here.
Colby Fulfer.
Here.
Mike Lawson.
Here.
Rick Evans.
Here.
Jim Reed.
Here.
Kathy J. Cox. Here. Ernest Cake.
Here.
Thank you. This is the portion of each meeting that the council sets aside to hear comments from our residents. If there are any of our residents in the audience that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not on tonight's agenda, we ask that you come to the microphone, clearly state your name and address, and please keep your comments brief. Would anyone like to address an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Come right on up, ma'am. Right there.
My name's Victoria Thorpe, and I live at 1906 West Emma. And I would like to ask about the fireworks. I don't know how many calls that the authorities got, but I know I put in 6. It went 6 nights in our neighborhood. 2 of them were not supposed to even have fireworks. 4 of them went till after midnight and after 1 o'clock. 4 nights is just too many. And I hope you could see your way to maybe stopping them or cutting them down, cutting the days down. Okay. And I don't know what else to say, that it's horrible. Some of them just shook our house, whole house. And they went even on Memorial Day. They went. So that's what I was asking, and I hope you would consider it.
Thank you, Ms. Thorpe.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Anyone else? All right, then we'll move on to the minutes will be presented in our next meeting. We'll move on to procedural motions. Item 6. What's your pleasure, council?
Move for A and B. Second.
Okay, motion is second. Roll call, please.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
J. Cox.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you. Item 7, I'll turn over to our city attorney, Ernest Cate.
This is a resolution setting a hearing date on a petition to abandon a portion of utilities in the city of Springdale, Washington County, Arkansas. The date on here is actually incorrect. Looks like Cindy put July 25th. It would actually be the second meeting in August, which would be 22nd. This just sets the public hearing. It's required by statute.
Move the resolution pass with the amendment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Anyone in the audience need to speak to this? Okay, Denise?
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
J. Cox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you. Our next item, A&P Commission appointment. This is a resolution making an appointment to the Advertising and Promotion Commission of the City of Springdale. Roger Davis, his term expired, and he's stepping off the commission. And we're asking that you approve Jason Janda to complete. I'm sorry, Roger. His term had not expired. He had to step down. He was moved to another. Yeah, he retired, and this is one of the positions on the A&P that is tied to a specific industry. So we're asking you to approve Jason Janda to be seat two to complete the unexpired term of Roger Davis.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or comments?
Do you know which industry? Is it the motel?
Be the hotel.
Holiday
Actually, at the same, yeah,
Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn, yes.
He took Roger's place, actually.
He actually took his place in,
Is he in relation to Mike Janda?
not that I'm aware of. Oh, no, you're not? Okay,
His resume was quite impressive.
yeah. Yeah, we're pleased to have you. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All right, let's vote.
Overton.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Carries 8-0.
All right, thank you, and thank you for your willingness to serve. All right, item 9. Whoops, I'm sorry. We're at, we are at item 9. Finance Committee report and recommendations. Chair Jeff Watson. I know you weren't,
One item from the Finance Committee, it is a resolution by the City of Springdale, Arkansas, supporting federal and state legislation to ensure the proper assessment and collection of sales tax from all internet, online sales, thereby creating a fair and free market for all business and consumers regardless of the location of the business from which the purchase was made. I was not able to attend the meeting Monday, so Mayor, do you want to
Okay.
address that?
we had a very slim meeting, had 2 of our committee members there, 2 council members, so nothing was forwarded with a recommendation. So we just forwarded, everything you see tonight forwarded from a committee is without a recommendation because we didn't have a quorum to do that, to allow us to do that. This is and we've touched on it many times. This is a fairness issue where our brick and mortar stores, there is a sales and use tax that is already due in the state of Arkansas for purchases made, and actually if a resident buys something, an Arkansas resident buys something online, and sales tax is not collected, then they're to report that and then pay that sales tax. Now, I can't tell you how much of that's actually getting done, but this is a way in which that sales tax could be properly collected as according to the law and submitted to the state of Arkansas, and of course the city and county would receive our portion too. When our brick and mortar stores, the folks who invest in our city to build businesses, when they sell a product that is also available online, they start out unfairly at almost a 10% disadvantage to those who sell online and do not collect sales tax. This is very unfair to our brick and mortar stores and to those who actually contribute to our community through property improvements, and they create jobs in our community. And I think the biggest portion of this, there is a revenue portion too, make no mistake, and I'll readily admit that. But the biggest portion, the biggest concern on this, and where we have treated our local business owners unfairly, and because they've not been on a level playing field with those who sell from out of state over the internet. So there is a concerted effort throughout the state to let our legislators know that we support this. We believe that the governor has indicated that he is open to calling a special session to deal with this. This failed in the legislature during the session by 7 votes. And we have reason to believe that if the governor believes the support is there, that he would be willing to call a special session for the legislature to deal with this, so we don't have to wait 2 years for the next legislative session before we begin to put this in place. Again, I believe it's a matter of fairness. It is also a matter of revenue. We have, as you may have heard, when this was being just discussed at the legislature, Amazon decided, as they have in other states, decided to go ahead and voluntarily collect for the state of Arkansas. That first month they collected, there was a 7.2% increase statewide. That month we had a 16% increase in Springdale. Now, not all that was the online sales tax and Amazon's collection, but a good portion of it was. And so, you know, if you remember back, and those of you who've been a while, and this took place just as I became mayor, when the state of Arkansas adopted the streamlined sales tax and changed the taxing collection from point of sale to point of delivery, Springdale was hurt, I could argue, more than any city in the state because of the nature of our retail and the strength, where our strengths in retail were. This also helps level the playing field between us and other cities, because Springdale does have the consumers. We do have the residents and many of them, just like in any city, buy online. And so it's important, I believe, as the nature of retail changes, I believe it's important that, because the sales tax is the lifeblood of a city, that I believe, and it's the only way that we can fund our people and our services that we in turn return to our residents. I believe it's very important that this issue is dealt with. And again, so it's twofold: revenue for not only Springdale but every city in Arkansas and every county in Arkansas, along with the state of Arkansas, and even more importantly, fairness to the brick and mortar businesses that invest in our city and put our people to work.
Mayor, can you tell me why this failed in the legislature?
Some saw it as a new tax, even though some of the legislators knew and would readily admit it was not a new tax. Honestly, I don't think they had the political will to vote for it, because it can be misunderstood.
But Mayor, I think it's important to note tonight that if this resolution is passed, this doesn't mean this automatically happens.
No.
That we as a council and a city might support this idea, but we cannot and will not be passing this tax tonight. I think
No, it'll be up
I think
to
that's part
them.
of a conversation that I had earlier today with somebody else late in the day. They thought it was, if it's passed tonight, automatically this would become law.
This simply shows support for both federal and state efforts, and there are both those efforts underway right now and have been for a while, to right this wrong to our local businesses and create a mechanism to collect the taxes that are already due. We don't encourage people to cheat on their income tax. We don't encourage people to cheat in other ways, and we shouldn't be encouraging each other to cheat on our sales tax.
And as you said, it's already law, but
Right.
you're supposed to report it. So
Right.
I move this resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions?
I think part of the sentiment of why it didn't pass in the state and why it's having some issues federally is, even though it isn't a new tax, to some people it is going to be a new tax to them because they haven't been paying a use tax, which is probably, if we're honest, the majority of people who probably don't think to report that after they make a purchase online. So it's a new tax to some people. And I think the sentiment in Little Rock was, if we do this, it is going to add to our tax revenue, and it is going to be a new tax to some individuals. So let's find a way to offset this. And a lot of people wanted to see us offset it through the income tax, where, okay, if we're going to do this, then let's offset our income tax, drop it, from 6 point whatever down to 5.5 or so. And I think the reason it failed in the state was because the state wasn't going to find a way to give some type of a break on the other end of it. And I think that's why it ultimately failed. It isn't a new tax. It is to some people simply because a lot of people don't even know what a use tax is. If you ask 10 people on the street, probably one may be able to even tell you what use tax is. The other point I would make is that the Supreme Court ruled in 1992 that states could not force this collection. Quail Corporation was in North Dakota, and North Dakota trying to collect on it because they said they had a physical presence in the state when in fact they didn't have a presence in the state. And the Supreme Court ruled that you cannot collect on that tax if you don't have a presence or a nexus within the state. And they said at any time Congress can overturn this if they choose. And I think there's been efforts to do this, but there's so much pushback from the general public about it. And they're saying if you're going to do this, then lighten the burden somewhere else. And I'm all for sales tax. I think there's no greater way to even the tax burden than through a sales tax and to reduce people's income tax on their hard work. But I think that's why this is not getting the traction it needs. And even our local delegation here, most of them, all but one, I believe, did not support this. And my hesitation in this is to give the city's stamp of approval on something that we don't know. We don't know what the give back's going to be on this, because I wouldn't be in support of this if there's not any type of give back on income tax or reduction of sales tax. We are one of the highest taxed states in the country, and we're going to continue to bring in these taxes. We're going to have some relief somewhere else, I think, on the taxpayers. And so I think that's my main hesitation is we don't know what the state legislature nor the federal government is going to propose what's going to be given back to the taxpayer in return on this. Because if we just keep collecting taxes and more taxes, I think it's more of a burden. And let me say this as well. This is nothing new to the state of Arkansas. We've known that we're missing this tax for years. The state has a tendency, all states do, when they realize they're missing out on tax money, they're going to make up for it somewhere. And so my other hesitation is that's why I want to see the income tax reduced on the state level, and I'd be hesitant to sign off on this unless I know they're going to do that. I think they've made up for it in other places of tax increases, and I want to see them, if we're going to collect this, to reduce. And my hesitation would be to sign off on this until I know that there's going to be a reduction somewhere else.
Colby, through your research and your discussions with evidently legislators, is there a sense that they're seriously considering the option that you're suggesting?
I think that's why their sentiment is that it will not pass because they can't get enough support to reduce taxes somewhere else.
No, my point is whether there's some sort of a reduction in the state income tax or somewhere else, some relief for the average taxpayer out here.
I don't think it'll pass if there's not.
And I think, Colby, to your point, I believe that calling a special session, which this encourages the governor to do, will put the legislators in a position where they will discuss those other options. But keep in mind, we represent the city of Springdale, and whatever the state of Arkansas does with their 6% doesn't affect our 2%. And Springdale has been at a disadvantage since the point of delivery was put in place. And this helps, and I have been promised for 9 years now that the background behind the streamlined sales tax was pointing to collection of the internet sales tax. And that effort stalled, and we have borne the brunt of it. It's us and other cities like us. So I believe this is a vehicle, and I believe the purpose of it is to get that special session called where these things can be worked out, where the state can come up with a plan that could have some offsets in it. Also, the Quill decision that you spoke of, that was for mail order. That was long before internet sales were around. And there is a case now that most legal experts believe that the the states, or that the federal Supreme Court will take up. Judge Gorsuch, who's our newest appointee, there are two members of the Supreme Court on there right now that were on there when the Quill decision was passed. And Judge Gorsuch, our newest member, has already indicated that he believed Quill was wrong and should be revisited. Now, once the Supreme Court does that, whenever that is, then all this will become a moot point. Or when the federal, the RTPA or the Marketplace Fairness Act is passed out of Congress, then this becomes a moot point. But I've been told by both our congressmen and one of our senators that the more states that sign on to this and show support for this gives them a better chance of getting something out of legislation out of Congress. So I think this is important. It demonstrates support. I think it's support, again, not only for the city of Springdale, but I think it's support for our local businesses who have been struggling with that disadvantage that I believe is an unfair disadvantage.
I agree. I do agree with that as far as the unfair advantage. But let me back up on the Supreme Court issue. Even if something were to pass in Arkansas, it cannot be done until the Supreme Court decision is overruled.
Many states are already doing it
Well, I
and
know,
collecting
but
it.
it's still against what the Constitution of the United States calls for, regardless of whether or not they want to do it. They still can't. You can't do something because the state wants to do it. If the Supreme Court has said no, you're not supposed to do this, it's unconstitutional to do this. That even though a state wants to do that, they're still going beyond their oath of doing what the Constitution wants them to do. Now, if it does get overturned, then they have the free rein to do that all they want. And I would rather wait and see what the Supreme Court says, because it will go before the Supreme Court probably in the very near future. I mean, I think we're looking, pretty soon. But I would almost rather wait till we see what the Supreme Court says on this before we put a stamp of approval on it. But with the competitiveness, what you're talking about with the fairness of the local businesses, there's other disadvantages to being an online retailer, which they say 30% of things purchased on the internet are going to be returned, and the person who sells it online usually has to pay the return shipping on that as well. So they're paying shipping usually on the both ends. And so there is a disadvantage to being an online retailer as well. And I don't know if it quite works out to be a 10% advantage. I do understand that there is an advantage to that, though. But my thinking is if the Supreme Court signs off on this and says it would be the right thing to do, then I would be in support of looking at something at that point. But until then, like I think you said earlier, what we do tonight, this is not going to have an impact on if state or federal law is written for this or what the Supreme Court says. And so my whole thing is maybe it'd be good to wait to see what the Supreme Court has to say if they do hear this case.
Anybody else? My hope is we'll send that message to our legislators who I believe I had to laugh at one of them almost, respectfully. When I think it may come back to haunt them when they say that they won't vote for anything that many will consider to be unconstitutional. That's what the Supreme Court is there for, to determine these things. So I hope that we'll move forward with this. I respect Colby's argument and the way he's brought it forward. We just disagree on the process, I believe. So I've read the resolution. Are there other comments?
I'll just add one more thing, and then I'll be quiet. I don't know that I've spoken to very many people. I can't recall one that wants to see this done that is just a citizen of our city. It's a very unpopular thing, and I understand why. Of course, it's not a new tax, but it is to some individuals that aren't used to paying it. And I think in trying to represent the people within the city, it would be going against the majority sentiment of the people. And that's just my experience, and other people's are different, but that's just my sentiment on it. I
think the people I talk to when I explain it, I'm hopeful they understand it. We're here to do the right thing, so I'll leave that with you all. If there are no other comments, I'll ask for the vote.
Wolfer. Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
No.
Carries 6-2.
Thank you. All right. Item 10, Street and CIP Report and Recommendations. Chairman Rick Evans. Rick?
We had a meeting last week, the street CIP, there wasn't enough of us there, but I'll go ahead and have the chief come up and explain. This is an ordinance to waive competitive bidding for the purchase and installation of a bi-directional antenna, and he'll explain why we need one.
I move the ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Chief's here.
Thank you. We're not getting radio signal in the downstairs of our police department. It's been a real struggle. It's a real safety issue. We've tried numerous things to try to not have to spend this money. Nothing has worked. We had Smith come in, they brought an engineer, they got our blueprints, and they came back with this quote. I don't know what this quote means because I'm not a radio person. So I've called everyone I can think of. I can't get anyone else to come give us a quote. I did get a couple of companies to look at this and say they think it's a fair price. But they said that to give us a quote, they would have to bring in an engineer, study our building plans, and they weren't willing to do the cost of that, knowing that we have a radio provider that we're probably going to go with.
Where would this antenna be located? In the building?
Yes, there will be 4 internal antennas placed in where they've determined it needs to be placed by the blueprints. And then there'll be some electronic equipment that I don't understand that boosts the signal. And then there'll be an external antenna that will get the signal out to the,
Dodd Mountain?
yes, and bring it in to distribute through the 4 antennas to where the officers will be able to have radio service with their portable radios.
Because of the configuration of the building, you have to have a booster in order to get it out to Dodd Mountain, which is your primary.
Evidently, this is a pretty common thing. We didn't have radio service at the emergency room. They went in and they installed one of these, and now we have radio service there. I met with the new children's hospital. They're installing one of these. Evidently, this is real common to put in when you do new construction.
Not just sorry architecture in this building.
Excuse me?
Not just sorry architecture in this building, okay.
Yeah, and kind of to go off Mike's point too, Mike, we did ask the question and discussed that, make sure that this can be utilized when hopefully the building is remodeled.
I met with them and explained to them that there was a real possibility that this will be remodeled. They said that the worst case scenario is that when we finish remodeling, they'll reposition the antennas, but we still will need this for whatever purpose. We won't have radio service down there if we don't have this.
Right.
So it'll be left and be utilized.
And I think some of it has to do with today's new radio technology.
It does.
You know, I think a lot of it has to do with that.
Is not Smith our primary provider of antennas?
Yes, they're our radio provider.
That's what I mean, and, yeah, the antennas are actually other folks, and they utilize space on the antenna.
Yeah, our 2 tower sites.
Yeah,
The one is on the east, off of Dodd Mountain, and the other one is in the northwest.
I think Smith owns one of them. I'm not sure, but
They own the one off of Ball Road.
what I thought.
Okay, anything else? Anyone? Hey, Denise?
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Could the emergency clause be adopted?
Second.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Overton.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 8-0.
Okay. Let's see, item 11, we're at the Community Development Block Grant Program Committee Report and Recommendations. Mike Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this was actually on our committee a few weeks ago. If I remember correctly, it came with a recommendation for approval. It is a resolution adopting and approving the 2017 Program Year Action Plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program. And I see Patsy's come up, so
Remember, I reported to you last time we got $10,000 more than we thought we were going to get instead of being cut. So our total amount is $840,882. That amount that we set aside originally is being paid to all the public services, which makes the total amount at 12.25%. The additional over of that was put into the housing program, which puts the housing program at $702,882, and $35,000 of that is for general program administration. This would authorize the submission of the application to HUD in the time frame that they're asking for it to be there.
Move the resolution pass.
Second.
Okay. Any further questions or comments?
Just one quick one. Patsy, of all the cities that applied, how many cities were given not only what they requested, but a little bit more? And
Well,
some-
it's not actually a request for amount. We are an entitlement city, and we are given an allocation every time. There were 7 cities in Arkansas that were actually cut, and 6 of them that were increased. I can't tell you right off the top of my head which ones are which, but we
I
were
didn't
one of
need
the
names.
ones.
I was just
Yeah, we
curious.
were one of the ones that got an increase in the amount.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, Denise?
Reed,
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Culver?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Carries 8-0.
All right, Planning Commission report and recommendations. Patsy Christie, Director of Planning.
The first item is a replat of lots 11, 12, and part of lots 4, 5, and 10 of the Coleman addition. This is the area over here across the railroad track by Tyson's in the feed store, and we're reconfiguring some of the lines. The Planning Commission has reviewed this request for a replat and recommends that it be approved. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance accepting the replat of lots 11, 12, parts of lot 4, 5, and 10, part of Coleman Street right-of-way and part of a platted alley right-of-way, roads addition to the city of Springdale, Arkansas, declaring an emergency.
Move the ordinance do pass.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Anyone? Okay, Denise?
Jaycox?
Yes.
Culver?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Reed?
Yes. Move the emergency clause be passed.
Second.
Culver?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
I thought
Overton?
excuse me, I
Yes.
thought for sure you were going to ask why.
I
That was going to be my question when it got to me. What is the emergency?
You know, whatever.
I just thought I'd ask. That's okay.
Well, I was going to explain the emergency. They're trying to clean up some deeds and get some of those things taken care of. Usually they don't bring it to us until they're ready to move forward with it. I mean, this is just moving some lines around. It's Tyson's, and they've been working on this deal for quite some time. I think they finally got it all worked out where they could get it cleaned up.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Reed?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 8-0.
Okay.
Oh, got to go to the next. Got to figure out how to get to the next one. I did remember to load them this time. Okay. This is a request as a replat of Ozark Business Park. They are taking lots 5 through 13, I think it is, and replatting them back into one lot. It was one lot, then it's been divided up. For building code and fire code requirements, it's to their advantage. It doesn't change anything that's already been approved. It just puts them all on one lot, and it changes some of the building requirements because of the lot lines that were there before. There's no change in the dedication of easements or rights of way for Jean George Boulevard when it gets extended up through there or anything like that. It's just putting all those lots back into one lot. Planning Commission recommends approval of this replat. The ordinance title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance accepting the replat of Ozark Business Park, a commercial subdivision to the city of Springdale, Arkansas, declaring an emergency.
Ordinance do pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Okay.
Watson?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Reed?
Yes.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Culver?
Yes. Move the emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Overton,
Yes.
Fulfer,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans,
Yes, ma'am.
Reed,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Of the ordinance, emergency clause carry 8-0.
The next item is a waiver of street improvements that was presented a couple of months ago. We've been back and forth with this one. This is one where the plat of the subdivision indicated that these two lots had to have street improvements done when these two lots are developed. The only other way we determined this could be waived, not by a waiver of the planning of the city council, would be is if the plat was replatted and that comment comes off. And what we've worked with, and Brad and I worked with their engineer and the developer to come up with a compromise and identify what the actual improvements that need to be done to Emma Avenue to meet the intent of doing street improvements. Sometimes when you widen out a portion of a street in a very small area like this would be, you sometimes create a traffic hazard. And what we have worked out in this is where they would build the proper drainage improvements, they would put the sidewalk in the location where it needs to be, they would do everything except actually extend the road like we've done in other places like Watkins, where we create a shoulder. And when we get ready to do the entire street, then we'd set the curb and gutter and do the street improvements all at one time so it's a smoother transition. Basically, he's doing most of the improvements that's part of this development that would be required. The original estimate of what it'd take to do exactly everything that needed to be done was around $74,000. The estimate of the work that we're asking him to do right now is about the estimate we got was $52,171.90. So it's not an insignificant improvement that he's doing. It's quite a bit of money to add to two small lots. But we're getting something that's functional, something that we see in the future we wouldn't necessarily have to take out unless we make a major change to the design of Emma in the future. So that's the compromise that we're recommending, and that's what this resolution does. It's a resolution approving a waiver of street improvements, drainage, curbs, gutters, and sidewalks as set forth in ordinance number 3725 to David Alderson in connection with non-large scale in 1706 and in 1707 Alderson fourplex east and west. And what I just explained to you is what's included in the whereases and the granting of the waiver in this resolution.
If memory serves me right, when we addressed this the last time, we were addressing the fact that the council, at the time that subdivision was approved, in order to approve the multifamily lots that went in, required, when these two lots were developed, that the Emma Avenue would be widened and improved.
That's what it says on the plat.
That's exactly
that's
what.
the note on the plat.
And so now you're telling us that the city staff wants to change what the council had approved. And to me, I don't see why payment in lieu of would not be a appropriate remedy.
Okay, we're not trying to say we want to change what the council said to do.
That's what you're doing.
We are proposing a compromise that would allow improvements to be done at this time at the developer's request. That makes the intent of it. We've done it in other places where we've built, one lane, the sidewalk, the drainage to it, and didn't do the curb and gutter so that it could be done later. It's not an unusual thing. It's just a way to bring an alternative to it that helps this developer move forward with being able to do it. We're not trying to circumvent. We're just trying to give a compromise in between to see if this will work.
I'm still in favor of a payment in lieu of, like we've done before with other developers. So when, in fact, when it does get improved, and obviously Emma is going to be widened and improved at some point, that we have the funds available to do that.
And when asked by the developer when that's going to happen, I can't tell him because it's not on any of our improvement programs right now to do anything to Emma Avenue. That's part of the reason why we looked at a way to address a compromise. That's all we're proposing to you as a compromise. It's still your decision.
The compromise is that they will go ahead and build the sidewalks.
They will build the
And
sidewalk.
is that going to be at a farther distance
Right.
from the road
Right.
than other sidewalks? There are no other
Well,
sidewalks out
there aren't any other sidewalks, but it is in keeping with the way the road would be widened based on today's master street plan standards.
Okay,
And
what
do
was the other improvement that they were gonna do?
the stormwater improvements. They would take the ditch out. They will put the appropriate sized drainage culverts through there.
And those would be in the location
Right.
appropriate for the widening of the street.
Right, and then
So
they
there'd be
would.
no ditch. There would
That's
be-
correct. So we're getting a little bit of improvement, isn't it?
Drain if there's no ditch?
They have to do transitions when they get to the end of both ends, you know, a head wall and the way that, I know enough engineering to be dangerous, but Brad can tell you all the details, but that works out where you pick up the water one end and you make sure it comes in and then you stabilize it on the other end so it goes back into the
And so
ditch.
basically, there's just no curb and gutter.
Right, there's no curb and gutter, and the asphalt will end with a gravel or a shoulder like we have in other places. The prime example for that is Watkins, out by the ballpark. You know, we improved it up to the western side of the ballpark, and then when you go on down to 64th Street, the drainage and stuff hasn't been done. As development occurs, those get to be picked up. I don't think that's me.
Okay, so all that makes sense, and that's all good. Then I'll follow up Mike's question. We've done payment in lieu of numerous times. Why are we not doing it this time?
We are offering you an alternative based on the fact that this developer didn't know that those requirements were,
But it
On
was
those-
in the deed when he bought it.
it was on the plat. I can't tell you whether it was in the deed or not. And I'm not making excuses for him. He wasn't told. He should have done his homework. I'm not making excuses. But let's face it, folks, sometimes that happens. And we were just trying to help come up with a
Which I
way to
appreciate-
deal with
I
this.
appreciate, has anybody considered just a bond of assurance?
I'm sorry, what?
A bond of assurance?
Bill of assurance.
Pardon me, bill of assurance, rather than payment in lieu of? So when those improvements are made, that he would still be responsible? But at this point, I mean, even and I'm a real sidewalk advocate, as you all know, but there isn't anything there, and just like, and I know we've done it in other places, I understand that. But at least he could move forward with his project with the promise that when those improvements are made, whoever owns that piece of property will do those
In fact,
improvements.
the drainage and the sidewalk are the two of the biggest expenses anyway, and those are gonna be made.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
have
what
a
we're
real
looking for.
problem with that. It's just that I was wondering why we were not doing what we've done in the past.
We're giving you alternatives. The difference between a bill of assurance and a payment in lieu of, once he makes that payment in lieu of,
Right.
it's finished, he's done. We put a bill of assurance on that, that puts a cloud on that title, because if he sells it, we go to the next person, and then, you know, that person may not know that, oh, they've got to pay their share of it when the time comes,
And I
so.
know we've had those discussions
Right.
several times, I understand that. I was looking for a way that he could develop his property.
And I go back to the
Okay.
original commitment. That was part of the deal when this was presented to the council at the time. And as you always say, the council passed it and approved it, and that's what they passed and approved
I'm
at
not
the
arguing
time.
that that's what it is. I'm
And
not arguing that's there.
It seems a
Either-
little unusual that we put that in the plat. That's
Well,
not something that we.
That
do.
was in order for the developer at the time, Mr. Mathias, to slick through and not have to do the improvements for Emma. That was the compromise at the
And he didn't
time.
build on those two lots. He sold them separately. I mean,
Yeah, he
at the
built-
time, if he'd have come on through and built them, we would have got it done at that time, but it didn't happen.
He did it piecemeal to save money. I'm okay with a payment in lieu of or a bill of assurance for 10 years.
Well, that gives the developer the option. You can take one of those or just pay to have the work done.
Yep,
True.
Is that a motion?
yep.
Now, wait a second.
Let me ask this real quick, Jeff. What, isn't, I know we ruled on this, we made a decision, but is it just me? I find it odd that it just shows up. Wouldn't it have gone to committee?
No, it didn't go
But I mean,
to ordinance
shouldn't it?
committee or
No,
anything.
it was at committee the other night, but there
Oh.
wasn't enough people there to discuss it.
It's been a busy couple of weeks. I'm just checking, because I missed
We
it.
tried to get it on the committee agenda. We were there to do our
Somebody
part.
had the idea to meet on the 3rd.
I
It was
asked
somebody that
questions
wasn't
about the
there.
bill of
I
assurance
will remind
then.
everybody that I was against that, but,
I was against it too.
but, okay, so Mike, I want to make sure, I think we ought to move forward with the proposal and have those things done. Are you talking about putting the bill of assurances on there for the curb and gutter?
For the
whole thing?
For the whole thing.
Well, why not go ahead and have these improvements done now? That's what they're offering to do.
Then what we're doing is changing the original determination that once those were developed,
Well, I mean, what about, with the developer, and I don't know if the developer's here or not.
He's not here, but his engineer's here.
Okay.
And
Would they
you know.
be willing to go ahead with these improvements and a bill of assurances for the rest?
Well, I'm not speaking on behalf of the developer, but I would say probably not. He wouldn't have asked for the waiver to start with if he was willing to add a $75,000, $74,000 cost to the development.
He's trying to
of-
save 25,000 is the deal.
But my point is, I don't want to do a bill of assurances for the whole thing. I'd rather have these improvements done now.
Well, just like Ms. Jaycock says, okay, we're gonna have sidewalks, on one spot, short spot on, Emma and
What's
nowhere
wrong with
else.
that? We do that all the time.
We're never gonna get sidewalks if we don't.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? So I say we go ahead, we either go ahead and ask for the $50,000 improvements now, bill of assurances for the balance, or, and if he's not willing to do that and wants a bill of assurances for the entire thing, I say no to a bill of assurances for the entire thing. That's where I take the hard line and say, hey,
So
They
your,
should've known
your,
it was on there.
that's right. Your proposal is to
50,000.
plus a bill of assurance
For
to,
the
for the
balance.
widening of the
For the
of the
curb and
street,
gutter, for the curb and gutter.
for the balance of the, what the commitment would be. I could live with that.
Yeah.
This won't be just what's on the
But, and if,
If they don't want to do that, then we're back to square one.
Well, basically, you're denying the waiver because
That's
he's
right.
having to put $52,000 up to build part of it now and put the bill of assurance up. So
For the
basically-
balance, for the
Yeah,
balance.
For the balance, but
Is the balance,
in today's dollars, it's the same amount.
is
He
the
can
balance
decide to
for
go ahead
now
and,
or then?
it would be then. A bill of assurance would, whatever the cost is the day that we do the improvements,
Mhm.
it could be more for him at that time.
Yeah.
He'd be better off to put a payment in lieu and not do anything.
Exactly.
It's gotta be the
I'm
same
not saying
dollar.
I'll vote for a payment in lieu of.
Okay.
I'm saying it was in the, he knew.
Somewhere you
the-
gotta compromise.
The,
Yeah, you're right. It was
This
there.
would've got, this would've gotten a sidewalk now, is basically the big difference,
Yeah,
and the drainage.
and the drainage.
but it's really not.
Instead of
drainage.
waiting on improvements we don't know when.
Well, we don't know about trails or anything else that we're.
So I don't know. I'm not making a motion.
That's our proposal, and what we're proposing is agreeable to the developer as we proposed it. If there's something else coming back, we'll have to go back and see whether he wants to accept
then
that or
I'll-
just do the improvements.
I'll go back to my original suggestion of either a payment in lieu of or bill of assurance.
For the full
Full
amount.
amount.
Okay, so that's a motion?
Yes, sir.
For the either or, that they go back and either the bill of assurance or the payment in lieu of for the
Yes.
entire project?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a motion.
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone? Okay, Denise?
Wolfer,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans,
No.
Reed,
No.
Jaycox,
Yes.
Culver,
Kind of tore on this.
Make it a 4-4 vote, I can tell you that right now. We can make the mayor.
That's probably what we should do. Yes.
Watson,
No.
Overton,
Yes.
5-3.
There we go. All right, item 13, I'll turn over to Ernest, our city attorney.
Okay, this is an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to file a cleanup lien for the removal of overgrown brush and debris on property located within the city of Springdale, Washington County, Arkansas. Properties located at 1004 Fraker and 1101 South Old Missouri Road, which had been tabled from the last meeting.
Make a motion, ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Anyone need to speak to these, any of these?
I do have a question before we go through all this again.
Okay.
What are the options right now?
What's your
I
name?
mean, what's John Hutton? I'm the
One of the property
on-site
owners.
manager at Whistler Mobile
Whistler.
Park
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
at 1101.
We tabled this 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the end result of tonight's meeting?
What are the options? Well, if the
Yes.
council, There's been a motion and a second. If the council approves the ordinance, then it will be sent to the county to be placed on the property as a
Lien.
cleanup
As a lien,
lien.
okay.
And it's assessed as back taxes. And I believe there's a 10% collection fee that the tax collector assesses on top of that by statute.
Okay. Did you find out about the?
There is no interest.
No, okay. Thank you. Okay. But there's no possibility of the council throwing it out, per se.
Well, that's their prerogative, whether they pass the ordinance or don't.
Right. Okay. So they passed it so that there's no turning back now, or?
They haven't passed
No,
it yet.
Oh, okay.
There's a motion and a second, and we'll vote as soon as we hear whatever comments need to be made.
There'll be,
Okay.
yes, discussion on the.
Right.
Okay. Another question. If it goes to, if it gets turned over to the courts, where, you decide that there's enough information that needs to go to the courts, then who gets the ticket?
Well, it would have to be.
I talked to Misha a while ago. She's like, after we're done, if they go that route, then, I'll need an ID. And I'm like, wait a minute. If I get the ticket, then I'm responsible for the $4,000.
Well, let me tell you what our ordinance says. Our ordinance says that if residential property that is not owner occupied, if the owners of the property are out of state, which my understanding the owners are in
Yes,
Florida,
Texas.
sorry, but they're out of state. The ordinance requires them to appoint someone in the state of Arkansas to be their representative.
Mm-hmm.
And our ordinance provides that that representative can be issued a citation.
Okay.
If in fact there's been a representative appointed.
But he has to be officially appointed by the owner.
Yes.
You
Through the
don't,
city clerk's office.
if you weren't designated as the representative of the owner, you would not receive the citation.
But if you were designated as the owner's representative, which by ordinance they're required to do,
Right.
But
if they did designate you as such, then the city would be allowed to write you the citation.
Okay.
But Ernest, is it
Still
not,
doesn't make
is
him
it-
responsible.
is it not true, though, that if he were not appointed the representative, this would go to the county, and this would just become a lien against the property?
Correct.
Period.
Correct.
Not a citation against any individual.
Correct.
Even though, so that's the point. If you're not appointed as the representative, this would simply go to the county, would be a lien against the owner's property that had to be paid at some point in time.
Okay. Okay.
Unless you voluntarily wanted to take the citation, of course.
I think he said he did not.
Exactly. And, if it does get, placed in a lien, to the county, and the owner decides he wants to contest it,
Yes.
he can come back then and, issue, or request a,
Statute requires that a cleanup lien can only be contested within 45 days from the date the lien ordinance is passed.
okay, which potentially could be tonight.
Yes.
It's okay. So if, I'm just covering my bases so I can, so, if it's passed tonight, it goes to lien because he's not here, potentially I'm not the, candidate, then he has 45 days to request a trial,
He has 45 days to appeal the lien being placed on the property.
which would
Yes.
take it to in front of a judge.
Yes,
Okay,
if it gets that far.
okay, okay. I'm ready.
I've got a
Now,
question
for
while
me,
you're up.
2 weeks ago when we heard this, what happened to the fact that the code enforcement officer went from door to door to door
And told him to put
That's
stuff
what I
out.
want to
Told
hear.
people
Misha's here,
to
and I'd
put
like for her
stuff
to
out.
explain that to us.
Yeah, the reason this was tabled was because Misha was sick at the time, and I knew you all wanted to have a
Because
response
that's not
to
the
some
way
of
to
the
do
things.
things.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear the other side of that.
Yeah.
So,
John and I spoke about this out in the hallway. That was something that I actually did. So when we started this case, it was from complaint from people in the mobile home park asking us to address this. The violation notice was given on January 18th, and the lien letter was received on January 24th. We spoke to the owners on January 24th and again on February 7th, discussing the conditions and asking them and telling them what needed to be done. On February 7th, Bobby Nivens went out and spoke with Mr. Hutton, walked around, did make a list of some of the properties that had violations on them. He did not comply the property at the time because it was still out of compliance, so that automatically pushes that over into our abatement area for them to do a reinspection on. But we waited to give them plenty of time to clean this property. We're now into March 27th. On March 27th, Bradley Klein went out and posted another 7-day violation notice, giving them another 7 days to take care of the property.
Misha, and that 7-day notice was posted where? On each of these properties?
No,
Or just
no.
at an office or?
Just on one. This is a one parcel. These are not individual.
Right.
And Mr. Hutton is the manager of these properties. So as code enforcement, we wouldn't address them individually. We would address the property manager. That's what the landlord registry and everything is for, is to have that contact.
So is it an office or what?
It is. It's an office that's connected to where
That's
he
where
lives.
it was posted?
Oh, Misha, is he registered as the contact
No.
person?
He's just the manager, but
Not
they
just
aren't
his.
on the landlord registry. They haven't registered the property at this time.
So they're in violation of that ordinance.
They are. They need to register it. No big deal. We'll get it done. On April 7th, which was the Friday, I mobilized all of my staff from all over the city and asked them to please go to this one location. We knew an abatement was coming, but we didn't want to do it. We knew also that there were a lot of items that people had out, and we wanted to give them an opportunity to put their items away. So I had my team mobilized. We had some translators that would go around, knock on any doors that had violations, that we could tell people, yes, we are coming next week to do an abatement. These are the items that are in violation. If you want to keep these items, please put them away. If not, we have a team that are coming to take these items from you. There was some discussion also of, we will have a bulk truck in this, in the mobile home park come Monday. So to save time from our guys, and actually save a little bit of money, if they had items that needed to be thrown away, if they would bring them to the curb, it didn't cost anything more. The truck is in the area. So yes, I did have some staff that were saying, these items are in violation, put them away, or we'll come and get them.
Misha, do you know?
And if you have any more stuff, stick it out and we'll haul it off.
We did not ever tell anyone to bring anything out of a property. We don't address the inside of a property. We address the outside of the property only.
You just said, though, if they had anything else they wanted to get rid of.
Any violations.
Was it meant outside only?
Yes. Any violations that were outside.
So-
We only addressed any items outside
But
the
you gave them the
property.
opportunity to bring it to a bulky waste truck.
We asked them if they wanted to, if they wanted to get rid of it, bring it out here. What that did
Put it
is-
out to the curb so it
Put
could
it
be
out to
put.
the curb. What that did is actually save time, because if they hadn't put it out to the curb, the landscape crew would have had to go structure to structure, cleaning every property, bringing it out. That would have doubled the time that we were there. So,
I'm trying to remember what my question was.
I have one question.
yes, sir.
Does each individual lot pay their own water bill?
No. There's a one water meter.
My question was going to be, every one of those people that were contacted by your staff in Mass, were they able to contact somebody on each of those properties? Have they face-to-face?
Not each of them. I think they made contact with quite a few of them, but not each of them. It's very difficult in the middle of the
I don't
day.
disagree with that. I'm just asking if they were successful in that attempt.
We were able to make contact with some of them. And a matter of fact, on that specific day, the week before, I asked to purchase a video camera. We purchased a little GoPro. And so at the time of even the abatements, we were knocking on doors, talking to folks, And we have some of that on recording. They're not the best recordings. It looks like they're shaking like crazy, but we do have some of that. So we do try to make contact as much as we can. Now, understand, that was above and beyond what we felt was required because there is a manager on the property.
And the owners, the property owners did get notice of everything.
We actually spoke to the property owners. I asked Mr. Nivens to please call the property owners again on the Friday before the abatement to let them know what was going to happen. That way they could come over the weekend if they needed to. And at that time, they told Officer Nivens to go ahead and abate the property.
This were the owners in Texas, that's
Yes.
correct? There wasn't individual tenants out there.
No.
Well, I'd like to commend you for going above and beyond, because I think that's something we should do as much as possible.
We've worked with Mr. Hutton in the past. He's a very nice man. We've tried to work really hard. But we do get complaints, and we need to, we feel responsible for those
Sometimes though,
complaints.
you get in a rut of thinking, well, this is what the statute says, and
Sure.
this is as far as we're gonna go. So I think
Sure.
sometimes,
Absolutely.
common sense says, well, just one more step, to
Absolutely.
be fair. So I appreciate that.
Anything else?
I was going to kind of echo what Mr. Watson said, that I enjoy hearing that we've gone above and beyond. I'd even like to see if we can make that available to everybody that gets the citations, to have the availability to have that option to do the same thing as well, save them some money.
But Colby, if you've been notified
Sure. I
and you
understand.
have had conversations and you know exactly what the problems are as presented by community engagement or code or building or whoever it might be, I don't know how much more other than, Whistler Park is a huge area. So like Jeff and you were both saying, appreciate that. But one-on-one,
It would be difficult.
pardon me?
It would be difficult.
It's also time-consuming and
It
expensive.
sure is.
So that's the only point I was going to make.
Anyone else?
Yeah, if I may.
Go ahead. You bet.
I had, did I need to readdress anything here? Does everybody remember everything, or as far as what I spoke about last time?
You're welcome to. They remembered that part and brought it up, but go ahead.
Well, I won't bore everybody with all the details. We did, discuss the crews coming in to clean up. Because Misha said, they had told people, they went door to door telling people to put stuff out. I do know we have a language barrier with some of our tenants. And I don't know if they misunderstood, but there were a lot of English-speaking people that put, a pile of stuff out that came from inside their house. So, I wasn't there when the crews were going door to door telling people what to, exactly word for word how they put it in there. But I do know that, whenever I was addressed with something, I handled it as best I could. When this first started in January, before the owner was notified, by certified mail, I had, got everything cleaned up, everything was taken care of. And, some of these pictures are, like I said, of the same, violation from different angles. Which, pictures, granted, can be deceiving, but when you have the same picture or same angle 3 or 4 different times, it makes things look worse than what it actually is. The mowing was an issue. I don't know if anybody remembered the mowing, but, they were going around mowing yards that did not need to be mowed. They had been mowed the day before. I have several notices from, tenants that, I'm not done yet. This is just a handful of ones that I've got that, where people have, stated that, their yards weren't mowed, or their yards were mowed and they didn't need to be. Nothing, they were talking, I asked Bradley about it, and he said that it was a neighborhood standard, which was kind of strange. Misha also stated that, or she didn't state it, but she told me out in the hall, that Bradley had came in, what day was it? March 27th, and gave me a notice, or he posted a notice. If he posted it, I haven't seen it. You know, if that's standard, you know, if that's standard operating procedure, you know, there's, you know, I'd like to know where he posted it, because I don't have it. And, you know, if he would have gave it to me and that would have given me another opportunity to correct things, you know, maybe things that I had overlooked, I'd have been more than glad to do it. But I didn't get it. See if there's anything else. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Misha, what's our policy on mowing? For all of us to know.
I asked our landscape crew today, or not today, excuse me, on Friday, and also many of our staff on Friday that were there on location. I was not. And they all denied that they mowed yards that did not need to be mowed. It is a large open space. There are not fences that are enclosing, so they did drive over some that did not need to be mowed, but we had our landscape supervisor driving and pointing, mow that one, mow that one. So it wasn't a mass mow of the whole area.
Misha, without me going through all this invoice, the bulky waste that was done on the Monday you told us, is that part of this?
There is an invoice. It's all included in all of those invoices, yes.
I have these forms that I've had people fill out if anybody'd like to look at them. Just kind of breeze through them. Or like I said, that's not all. That's just the ones that I've gotten back from the tenants.
How many tenants do you have?
90, I believe.
And how many are represented by the number of forms you've just given Mr. Culver?
There's maybe a third there. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't counted them. We have, there's 94 mobile home spaces and 60 RVs sitting on 20 acres. And there's probably, I guess, 25 or 30. Now, this, it's my understanding, but I don't know if they went door to door to the RVs as well, or just the mobile homes. But I don't think anybody put anything out in the RVs. It's just all the mobile homes.
Most of the RV sites don't really have yards anyway, do they?
Not much of one, you know, but they do have space. You know, they may be able to put something underneath or beside their door, or, you know. But I mean, there are, you know, there is a distance between them. They're not side by side.
Could I make a couple of points? You mentioned translator. I heard Misha say that they provided translators to those residents. You also mentioned there were some things from the inside of probably the mobile homes that were put out for the bulky waste.
Yes,
Okay, that, in my opinion, would have been the individual's choices, because if they had stuff inside they wanted to get rid of, what a great opportunity for somebody to come through and just get it all gone at the same time. To defend, or at least support what Misha is saying.
True, but, and you know, I get that, you know. I mean, you know, perfect opportunity. But if they were specifically told, you're only cleaning up your yard, then, you know, that would have been a possibility that, you know, they may have not taken their dresser out and their mattresses and, you know, all that other debris. You know, I didn't take pictures of the piles. Honestly, I didn't think about it at the time. I was kind of overwhelmed with what was going on at the time. But she said there is, you know, video of, you know, some of these piles and things. You know, that may be beneficial to me, you know, if I could utilize that, you know, if I have to go, you know, recoup cost or something, you know, I can find out who put the piles out, possibly, I don't know. Had a thought. Yep, It's back here somewhere. I've totally lost it.
I understand.
They didn't have all the piles picked up. They came in on Tuesday morning, they started about 9 o'clock, they ended at 3:34, whatever time the crew shuts down. There was a truck that came back the next morning to pick up a few piles. And I was talking to the guy driving the truck, and I said, well, just so you know, I've got some wood over here by my workshop that I use for the sides to my utility trailer. Don't take those because I'm gonna, put them back on the trailer. He says, we're not taking anything out of the yards, we're just taking what's piled on the side of the road. I thought that their job was to clean up the yards. So I got kind of confused there. Are they just picking up what's on the road? Or, I was confused. I was glad that he didn't take my stuff, but again, was he just told just to take what was on the road, then that could explain why people were putting mattresses and dressers and, desks and other items out there that weren't in the yard to begin with.
Okay. Anyone else have an issue on any of this, any of these properties? I'll be happy to give you all time if you want to.
So, the water utility is only one bill on this property, so we only collect one bulky waste fee on this property?
Probably don't even collect that. It's probably considered a.
Don't collect any?
There is one, we just get one master bill for the entire park, and we divide that up among the tenants to pay. As far as the bulky pickup, mobile home parks and apartment complexes are exempt from that. We are not allowed to do a bulky pickup. We have in the past, but it became a problem, and the city decided to stop that.
That's why I asked if that bulky waste bill was part of this, because they had to pay for it.
We don't have a bulky waste bill.
Well, you do on this invoice.
Well, multifamily, though, didn't apply.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Denise?
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans,
Yes, ma'am.
Reed,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Carries 8-0, and there's an emergency clause.
Make a motion, emergency clause pass.
Second.
Evans,
Yes, ma'am.
Reed,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Emergency clause carries 8-0.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from department heads?
Hello. We are having our annual budget input sessions this month, and I want to invite everybody to please come and attend. They will be held July 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. and July 28th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in this room. You have a couple options for filling out your input form. There will be forms available here at the sessions. You can also download the forms from our website, or you can fill it out online and submit it online as well. So you're welcome to come to the meetings. We encourage you to come. But if you can't make it, please try to submit a comment form and just give us some feedback on what services matter to you, what services you would like to see. Feel free to come to the meetings if you just have any general questions or just would like to meet awesome city staff. We would love to have you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Melissa. Anyone else? Council? Anyone?
Mayor, I've been getting calls lately from bulky waste, people calling bulky waste to set up an appointment for bulky waste and being told they would have to call back because they're full. And I don't think that's good customer service. I understand that we can only do so many a week, and I understand that a week might be full, But if we can't schedule them that week, then let's schedule them the next week or the next month. Why do we make them call back?
We can change that. Misha, why don't you come and tell why? I know that we've done that for a long time.
We had, Sam asked me today if I would discuss a little bit about the bulky waste program, kind of how it goes, but I want to start with the ordinance itself. So Chapter 102-6 talks about the removal of debris, appliances in the bulky waste program. There's a sentence in it that says, before placing bulky waste items at the curbside, residents should call the Springdale Public Works Department to schedule a pickup. Also, the last sentence talks about the bulky waste pickup is not available for the multiple residential units and will be the responsibility of the property owner. So that was in reference to the other. Right now, we schedule 150. We have a crew, 2 crews with 2 trucks, 150 per week. That's 25 to 30 per day, and that's with our trucks working all day long.
Is that seasonal? Is it higher in the summer?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I am prepared. So I'm going to go a little further back. In 2015, we had an average of 115 pickups a week. That was calls a week, 115. In 2016, we upped that to 120 per week. Those were just regular calls coming in per week. We are now averaging 162 per week. Those are calls. Those are actual pickups done, but not calls. We fill that by Tuesday.
Okay.
So
to cut to the chase from what I'm hearing, the way our ordinance is currently written, once someone calls for a bulky
Correct.
waste pickup, if it's 2 or 3 weeks out, then their stuff sets out there. Because once they
Correct.
call, according to our ordinance, they can put it out.
absolutely. So we would have piles of trash around the city for months. And no one could do anything about it. Code enforcement couldn't address it. They would just be sitting out there. The other thing we found is it's truly not fair to the residents. There is a confusion. Whenever someone calls in a bulky waste pickup, they feel like you're going to come pick it up. You're going to get it next week. They want to know a time. So when we're able to say between Monday and Friday of next week, that gives them a little bit of this, okay, I can do that. Also, it helps with the neighbors. Whenever someone calls and says, there's been a pile out here, and we can say, well, it will be picked up by next Friday. If we take multiple orders, you've got the confusion of, you said you're going to pick it up last week, it's still out here. We also have the concern of the neighbors. We don't know when it's going to be picked up. It could be out there 3 or 4 weeks, and we don't have a way of doing that. Honestly, if we didn't have a cutoff for that, we could easily fill up a month in a week. And if we just kept that going, we would be so far behind. There's an easy answer to this. We need another truck, and we need more staff. That is the answer to the bulky waste program. It's growing by leaps and bounds. It's going to continue to grow. The word is getting out.
So if
And
someone calls on Wednesday and they're told that we're full now.
Yes.
You need to call back next week.
yes,
They don't get any priority. They hopefully will call on Monday, have a better chance of getting it that week, right?
right. And we've kind of created a tad bit of a monster with that. Our Monday and Tuesday phones at Public Works are truly insane. We had 120 phone calls, bulky waste orders done yesterday, and that's with 2 ladies answering the phone all day long. So we've really kind of pushed this Monday, Tuesday thing, but we have no other way. We don't know how to answer
Well,
this except with.
Okay, so the way it works now is you work on a Monday through Friday week, right?
Yes,
And that they have to, that hopefully they'll get it by Friday.
they will get it by Friday.
Is there some way of, if someone calls on Wednesday, that you'll tell them it'll be picked up by the next Wednesday?
No, and the reason we don't do that is we do it, we take all of the orders 1 week, and when we dispatch them out, our trucks look at the orders that are in a certain area. So fuel efficiency is crazy on those huge trucks. So if we drive to South Springdale and somebody has called on Monday, And we're not going to pick up somebody's on Monday, but then somebody in South Springdale called on Wednesday, so we're going to go back over there and pick it up on Wednesday. We're going to do the whole area at one time. If more orders are continuously coming in, we are backtracking all over town, and it's just not efficient.
I really understand about the piles being out there. If we had to rewrite the ordinance to say that, or whatever, for you guys to be able to say that this is gonna be picked up this week, don't put it out till this week, I understand that. But these people are our taxpayers and they are our customers. And to tell them to wait and call back next week because we're full is not an answer. That's not the right answer. I've dealt around customer service for a long time on other things, and to tell somebody, I mean, it's not an emergency, don't get me wrong, it's not. But to the customer, that's like calling 911 and getting a recording, you know? It's just, you know.
I absolutely agree with you, Jim.
As far as getting us getting new truck and new crew, whenever the mayor tells us we need it, let's do it. I'm fine with that.
That is our answer. And
But
for
I
the
just don't
efficiency
think,
of the
Doug,
program.
I just don't think customer service-wise we can do that.
All right.
And can I throw something in?
We can't buy those with magic beans, so
And sometimes
need
the
to-
bulky waste truck gets called off to go handle abatements on top of that. I think you just made the case for our abatement fee, Misha.
Well, and that's, we did 350 abatements so far from January 1st to now. And those trucks are pulled off and needed for those things. So,
Mayor, can you update us on the towing, where we're at on that at the police department? Do you have any idea?
When will we have a decision on that, Chief? Oh, okay. I knew they were close. I talked with him yesterday.
I was just curious where the towing issue is at.
Well, I understand that the committee met today, and I haven't met with the committee. Eric was going one way and I was going the other.
The committee did meet, and they were making a recommendation to you, so hopefully by the next ordinance committee meeting, it'll be before the ordinance committee.
Next week from
Yes.
last night?
That's
Okay.
assuming that the police chief will stay in town, quit vacationing, do his job, and press on yes.
Eric texted me and said, can I get with you tomorrow? Because he was going a different direction, but
Yeah.
Okay.
we'll get
Thank
on
you.
the agenda.
Good. Should we get to deal with that then next Monday night? All right. City Attorney? Nothing from me. Motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I was gonna make.
Oh,
one point.
sorry, Colby. Go
I
ahead.
just- The dedication of the, I tried, not gonna interrupt. The dedication of the park, I think, went really well. And congratulations and kudos to Hogan Maestri.
Yeah.
For the work he did on that memorial. And, we need more young men that are focused on that. I wasn't focused on that kind of stuff
Okay,
when I was
Colby,
18.
could
but-
you rephrase that to young men and women?
You wouldn't focus on it now, let
Thank
alone
you.
as a teenager.
Although he's a young man, to all young men and women, but congratulations to him. He did a great job on that memorial.
And to follow up on Colby's comment, I'd like to thank Mr. Turnbow. I got to watch the video. I wasn't able to be there, but it looked like a great deal, and what a great person he
Yeah.
is for Springdale.
Yeah, great day on the 4th, thanks to I think a 93-year-old and a 17-year-old. So how about that? Yeah, all right, good. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Thank you.